Hello, I hope I'm audible. So yesterday we had a session on poetry as a political tool, and we had two of the writers from this session there as well. That's Ashwani and Madhu, and Avrina is new here. But we have a different topic today, poetry as hope. So we all believe that all poets are artists as well. I'm saying this for a reason because all the three poets here have some connection with art and performance as well. So you use language as a tool basically, and you develop it over a period of time. But along with that, you focus on certain themes. And as I said, you have done performance poetry. And when we think about performance poetry, it's getting all the more important these days, especially after the COVID. Even major broadcasters like the BBC, had a series of dramatized readings during that time. And if you follow the Booker Prize or the T.S. Eliot Prize websites, you will see that their approach also has changed. It's not anymore, poetry is not anymore the words on a page. They are making the shortlisted poets read and perform, and there are a lot of reviews that are video based. And all of you have used that as well. You are all, I think, I don't know much about Ashwani's presence. I mean, he's very much present in social media, but I don't know whether he has performed like perhaps Avrina. But I found out that he has written pieces that are used for opera, and there are very famous adaptations of his work, which happened in places like Budapest. So we can start with that, a poet as a performer, and we can, anybody can begin speaking. The format is like, we will have a first session in which they will read one of their longer poems, like 2 or 3 minutes, or even more than that, 5 to 8 minutes, that will be fine. Explain a little bit about their connection with performance, how performance brings you closer to people. That is, as I said, during the COVID, the way of presenting a poem became different. Like, they wanted to reach out more to the masses, and Madhu has made a very significant impact on it by speaking about the, artists were considered non-essential before that, and he changed all that equation. It was already there. All humanity actually benefits a lot from art, but they were not aware of that. The essentiality of that was not much felt before the pandemic. So we can speak a little bit about that and read 1 or 2 poems to fill in 8 or 10 minutes. Okay, and then we will have shorter sections which includes more discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the festival so far. Thank you to all the poets here. Thank you for the introduction, Jose. I'm going to read something that I already read on the first day. So if you've heard it already, then you have the chance to hear it again, right? This is called Poets on Fire. Tamilukkum Thayikkum Vanakkam. Parties are the original weavers, keepers of stories hidden in the folds of their saris. Amma endrarekada uirillaye. I fall down in a foreign land, I call out Amma. I burn my tongue in a foreign land, I call out Amma. My tongue yearns to speak, weep in your language, my Amma. Thank you for spitting this tongue in my mouth, my Amma. La, 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 la. It's redundant to call the speak of our eyes language, my Amma. The speak of this body, this being, this chamber, this temple, this library, this mortuary. How many dead do we keep? In what murmurations of a sunset sky do they speak? Only 2 people speak our language, my Amma. You don't even speak this language with Akka, though you gave birth to her too. You and me, two pairs of eyes, two mouths, two sets of teeth, four breaths, four hands, a million lines of hair on our skins. We are the speakers, keepers of our language, my amma. Allah, la, la, language, my amma. I folded into lovers and friends to hear for our language, but it's not the same. This la, la, la language isn't real, they say, my amma. Our language is the one you taught me in a dream. I was made there, I was me there, I was us, I was we, I was not she, I was not he. Language rejects us, amma, driving us at the speed of malfunctioning Teslas into prescription definition, a royal player in Saussure's signification. Frau Thambi, if you do not like Roland Barthes, Mikhail Bakhtin, Lacan, Derrida, or even the contemporaries Deleuze and Guattari, the propounders of schizoanalysis, perhaps you will be fond of Judith Butler? Fine. Perhaps people who look more like you, say Spivak or Homi Bhabha? Amma, what does the colonizer, the capitalizer, the orange-hearted fascist think? Muttalinu. Does he think we're fools, that he can write us into identity, humanity, animosity, barbarity, animality, as and when he wants? Write us out as and when he wants. Eat our languages for breakfast. Here is a slice of your mother's tongue done just the way you like it. Does he think he can rewrite us just as he rewires us, retires us? For who in this Aryan world requires us? Oh, but you need our backs to build your bridges, your skyscrapers, your football stadiums. How I pray, it breaks my heart. How did we eat in front of our TVs, watching men chase a ball, knowing blood was spilled yet again, bodies broken and broken and broken, dreams unreturned. Enslavement is still alive, so stop calling post-colonial. The wolf is here to stay. If I keep speaking in a la 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 language, no one will understand me, my amma. And I know you'd want nothing more than for me to be understood. There is power in being an understood woman, a woman who stands on that pinnacle of speech called understood, speaking a man's language, speaking so fluently, so clearly, such clarity, such divine beauty, such understanding, complicity, such intact virginity, such fertility. She stood like you stood, like my party stood, like your party stood, like her amma stood, like her party's amma's amma stood. She stood like you stood, like my party stood, like your party stood, like her amma stood, like a party's amma's amma stood. I stood and stood and stood, my feet red blistered, birds pecking at flesh for food. I'm always hungry in this world, my amma. La, 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 amma. You taught me the you taught me the English language, my amma. You were so proud when I brandished my B2 Deutsch Goethe-Zertifikat. Ah, my Kutti speaks another language of this world, another language of the masters. Why did you throw me into this well, my amma? When all this is done and dusted, will Elon Musk take me with him to the moon, my amma? What prize will I win for breaking my tongue like this, fixing my verstand, estranging myself further, farther, further, farther, further, farther, up the holy mountain to the Father? The holy saints kiss my feet, the mother, woman, understood, saint of holy clarity, speech and non-violent body. Asexed, yet raped to his fulfillment. Bless you as I fuck you. Amma, sometimes it seems like they don't know what they want. At least in our la 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 language, we don't lie to ourselves, Amma. We know nothing, for there is nothing to know. And we know not the words nothing or no. What we know is what we know. In a way, we don't really know how we know what we know. If there is no no, then how do we know we know? No, 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 no. We know nothing, for there is nothing to know, and we know not the words nothing or no. What we know is what we know. In a way we don't really know how we know what we know. If there is no no, then how do we know we know? How do we speak something we don't know, like we know so deeply? No, I just don't know. No, 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 no. La, 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 language. They touch even when I say no, then say they touched me, for I said no, no. The world here is so small, Amma. But you are big, she says. Back home, where the spirit is in your mouth and you are the mouth of the spirit, the world is big and you are small. Back home, spirits are leaves, eyes of trees watching. You call out to crows, our parties, come eat, it's lunchtime. Dogs in twilight like sirens bark, and you know someone's come, someone's at the door waiting. What you see is not everything, what you don't whispers, you keep going. Kutti, will you come home with me? Bariya, enga veetukku kootiittu poren va. Let me show you where I come from. It's burning red hot, the sun drooling on the pinnacle of our heads. Patti stands there, stood, the peak where heat seeps in. Soil burns, readies for a monsoon the Tamil Ocean pushes to us. Coconut trees watch, fingers of leaves never touch us but graze always, a graze. Even its shadows seem to say, you're blessed. The earth is not dying. Kutti, the earth will never die. Roosters cry, but it's only our language that tells us so. Every 30 minutes, every 5 minutes they call. I thought they did this only at sunrise, but they rise and rise, no patterns, no mimic cry. I climb up a wall to watch the action. They're all there, 3 roosters, 5 guinea fowl. Guinea fowl sound like sheets of tin being dragged one on top of the other. That's how Amma describes it. She comes to stand next to me with a coffee in hand, the one I made her, asks me if I'm here for the orchestra. In the kitchen, the cooker whistles. Someone somewhere is selling tomatoes. Someone somewhere is buying old paper. The Mariamman temple sings out loud praise for a goddess who brings rain. It's Adi, an important month in the Tamil calendar. The month when seeds are sown, and if Mariamma, our Amma of rain, Amma of monsoon, did not bring water, the seeds will not germinate. Temples resound devotion to her, thanking her for water, she, the birth of water. Temples alongside, prayers from a mosque rise. Someone somewhere is always praying. Coconuts drop from trees above us. I wonder how they know when not to drop, not to crack our skulls in two. I'm fragile in the hands of men, so I think I'm not in the hands of these skies. I look up to a canopy of leaves. In another life, I was something of a palm or a maid toddy. In another life, I lived under canopies of coconuts, palms, mangoes, neems, and banyans. My ribs were intertwined in the way of leaves crossing each other to make slices of shade. In another life, I was not the me you now see. In what la, la, la language do you tell the other lives that live within me? In what song, what dream of roosters speak, pattis, ammas, and all their kuttis sit to weave stories? In what language can I give to you what only 2 or 3 know to speak? Parties are the original weavers, keepers of stories, hidden in the folds of their saris. I will one day become my own party without ever birthing a kutti. I will weave a sari, wrap it around me, and in their folds, in the la 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 language, my amma's eyes will be the path out of this well where language has burned to death many of our tongues. Amma sits next to her amma, who sits next to her amma. So quietly we resurrect our stories, sleep or dream. Underneath the canopy, I watch with eyes of coconuts, and Amma, her kutti just there, watching birds who talk loudly. In our time, poets of our kind will never be hungry. In our time, poets of our kind will never be hungry. Thank you.
thank you for the lovely trip. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, why don't we just tell her to read in such a lyrical thing? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could. It's like a lullaby and everything put together. So nice. Yeah, I mean, and so for your question, like, yeah, performance and things like that. I mean, yeah, we kind of end up writing, picking up. My poetry is very anthropological. Like, I might have a conversation with you right now with a cab driver and write probably something like that, and have a poem with a lot of artists across the globe and maybe write a poem about it 3 years down the line. So one of the first questions is, why do you write poetry? And I think that itself is a poem of hope, a brief. So most of my poems will be very accessible, and I love the line by Billy Collins which says, my poetry is undermined by the use of the word accessible. So it's very brief, and I like the biggest power of poetry, I think, at times, for me, for my own practice, is brevity. And I like to have it like that because I like to carry a lot of lines in my heart. I mean, Louis Gluck or anybody on the face of earth, I just carry them in my heart and just, apply them. So this poem is called Hope. Some days, the table, paper, pen, nothing give me hope. Someday, the table, paper, pen, nothing gives me hope. I turn the table upside down, tear the paper, throw the pen. I turn to the world and see women burn, farmers cry, oppressors divide, agencies lie. I see megalomaniac murderers dig mass graves, world leaders pointing to a leaking barrel of hope. I rearrange the table, pull new sheets, look for my pen, and go back to writing poetry. So that's one of the reasons we write poetry, because the real world is much more scarier than writing poems. And yeah. So she was speaking on language, and from language I was thinking that, so it's a beautiful language called the Thani language in Arunachal. As you know, many of the languages, some of the languages, at least in India, is not still, they don't have a text, they don't have a written text. And one of the languages would be the Thani language from Arunachal. It is still being developed. It's just being practiced, put into schools, and they are trying to kind of regain. Otherwise, they were using the Assamese text for a longer time. And before I talk about the Northeast, speaking of performance, you talked about performance. So at times during the pandemic, we had to do a lot of talk online, and I was really pissed reading to a screen. So I thought of performing a poem like this, and I went, and they were like, oh, we can't hear you, maybe you didn't unmute, this, that. I said, no, you can't hear me because I'm speaking from the Northeast. I mean, you know that metaphor for India, yeah. And as performance, we are tired at times speaking, and you want silence, and you just create something ingeniously out of it. So this poem, so I'll, before the prelude of this poem, I'll, and Ashwani ji was like, yeah, आवाज नहीं आ रही सर, क्या करें, मतलब सुनाई नहीं दे रहा, क्या कह रहे नॉर्थ ईस्ट से, असम से, अरुणाचल से. तो खैर ये पोएम है जी.एन. देवी साहब के लिए. इफ़ यू नो जी.एन. देवी's work of conservation of languages, and Lisa Lomdak, who is a friend and a senior. It's called Losing a Tongue. But I want to prelude it with my father-in-law's Galo song. It's a Galo song, so it goes like this. It's on brotherhood. So some of you were not here yesterday, so you might as well hear a chota para from an unknown language. It talks about brotherhood and communityhood. Geetam gadha, setam gadha, Gombalokan loguna tani hima bajuka, Ibalokan loguna tani hima bajuka, Kona ko se korle yorgum si ko sogo, Kona ko se korle bidum si ko sogo, Nigam ummao tao sila kuju, Nigamumao Tao. A mother never dies, neither does a language. Words turn to birds, rest in herds of clouds, come down on forests, stay like a leaf that holds the last drop of rain. Tani will survive, grow like wild ferns in the crevices of barren walls between the loss of words. The trains that leave Naharlagan will come back to these hills that are hospices. The Arunachali Hindi will help trade. Tired tongues will look forward for the words of love like Mithun looks for salt. Mithun is the state animal, and it's not domesticated, it's not wild. It's a semi-domestic animal. It's called or the Indian gaur, or it's like a bison, but it just will come back to the owner when it needs salt, searching for salt. So, like the Mithun looks for salt, brothers will then come together to teach their children Tani, look for lost lullabies, search for stolen sagas and castaway caskets, create art from old and new words, embrace common sounds. The skies, hills, forests and rivers will hold a Kaba, which is a village council. The free skies will shine, the free hills will speak, the free rivers will sing, the free forests will write and Tani. Yeah, that's about it. So taking from you the conservation of languages.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Madhu, you referred to G.N. Devi. I think for us, G.N. Devi is so important today. I mean, reminding us about our oral culture and about the poetries, the verses that are available in what we call Adivasi. I mean, like yesterday, you read a beautiful poem from Jacinta Karkita. So what I'm gonna, Jose is pretty much kind of absent in our conversation, so I'm going to bring him back. Our dear and he actually taught me the art of, a disclosure before all of us. I'm gonna share a couple of poems, but not enough of showing the body of works available with you. But Jose has taught me the art of writing flash fiction, which also got shortlisted. I don't know how that happened. My first flash fiction was also titled Imaginary Biography of Rivers. So Jose, about performance poetry, let me share just, very few and brief things about it. Poetry has always been performative speech act. A speech act in the sense of not, speaking, but poetry has always been since time immemorial. I mean, this is where G.N. Devi reminds us that, there is a print capitalism, that really corrupts, distorts, the very art of poetry, So he goes back to Adivasi areas, etc., collect their poems. So poetry has always been performance. I don't know how to, define performance in these times, what we call liquid modernity, liquid modernity. So there is a different way of defining, capitalizing, and I'm told by younger colleagues that monetizing also, that liquid modernity in terms of poetry. So what I'm going to share with you a little bit, and the book is available here, Rivers Going Home, 71 Poets in Solidarity, 15 languages, 30 translators, so almost 100 plus, very younger and other generations, contemporary generation. Book is available here, and Josh told me copies gone, most copies gone, but I will make it available by evening, some more copies. And this is about what we did during the lockdown and isolation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm told by critics and literary journalists, this was perhaps the first Instagram poetry reading, in that sense, So using this platform of liquid modernity from 30th of March, Shinjan is here. She is co-founder of Indian Novice Collective and this Kitab Khana, the iconic bookshop in Mumbai. We got together and invited. And Jose, it was so difficult to teach people how to do Instagram reading. So we did it for 2 weeks, and after, a year or so, we collected poems, translated poems, in fact, you can see poems here from Mahamangdei, Robin, and you will find including Bhojpuri. I don't know how many people know, even aware of there is a language called Bhojpuri, not dialect. So we have done this translation, book is available here. So this is about performance, this is about the context of performance poetry. Cut to here, Joseph, he was telling me that, Ashwani, this is a hope poetry session. So I'm gonna, share with you a poem, and the poem is titled About Granny Maria. Granny Maria, this poem, I just, share a few clues, what is called entry point into the poem. It's not a very long poem, but the poem is about Tantric Newari architecture. If you've been to Kathmandu, you will see the two capitals, interjoined capitals. So based on Newari Tantric architecture. And secondly, this poem is also about language play. You can see how different languages, play with each other. So here it is. I don't know whether I can do performance here, but thank you very much, Mike. Jose. The poem is about Granny Maria, titled About Granny Maria. Granny Maria's village home was an old poem. It resembled a floating ship, a cloudy rock, or a mirror of red ribbons in the prep school. It was 5-story tall without any walls. Its roofs were infinite surrogate seasons embroidered with songs on banana leaves. Floors, upstairs and downstairs were carnival tricks. There were 55 windows, gossiping, giggling, brokering peace among unfaithful lovers. At the doorway, aging gypsies on wooden toy lions guarded all our possessions marked with ascetic asterisks. Granny Maria's parents, Mr. Nandi and Mrs. Nandi, were distant cousins of Japatista. They erred, slurred, while selling lamps in the refugee camps. Occasionally they came to the village, burnt effigies of indigo planters, and taught neighbors to cook octopus in creamy sauce. People say everyone in the village loved pinto beans and red paprika. But Granny Maria grew up on pancakes, apple pies, and crunchy crackers. After a shot of white rum punch, Granny sang, "Picanto, picanto, per il santo, picanto, per il santo." We don't remember what those words meant. But we know that she, in her heat-proof pleated cotton skirt and blouse, often slept in the clay fireplace. After the Civil War, when there was no grain in the house, nor black salt, with ivory hoop in her left toe, she climbed to the sky on the pretext of worshipping a snake-armed god. She unstitched the linings of the heavens with her squeaking scissors, plucked sea almonds, roasted them in the heat of lightning, and fed the daughters of unwed sparrows. All we know now, everyone in my village lived happily ever after. You would never see her again, but visit Granny Maria's house in my village. It is still an old poem. It's all about Granny Maria. Thank you very much.
So believe me, it's a coincidence that Avrina started with a poem which spoke about mothers and aunts and children and grandmothers, and then Madhu, language, and Madhu had something which resonated with it, and Ashwani also had something to speak about homes or houses rather, and it's also a coincidence that his poetry anthology is called Rivers Going Home, and Madhu has a book called Going Home.
Before that.
And both of you and even Avrina would have something to say important about the act of going home, not just coming back to home, going you are finding your home again. We have actually had a discussion about that. And if there are, I guess there are a few Malayalam readers here. You might know about the work by Artur Ravivarma. He speaks about salmons, which originate, they hatched in fresh water, and then they explore the ocean when they are young. But when they have to hatch, when they have to spawn or germinate again, they have to come back to, folklore says that they come back to the exact spot on which they hatched. So that can be an organic act, could be symbolic. You can just speak about how important it is for you to reach back, or to find your home again. Many of you might also remember the phrase imaginary homelands. It's not exactly the same sport, perhaps. You're creating a new home for you, and I'm sure that all of you will have something important to speak about that. And you don't necessarily have to read another poem about home. You can move on to something else, but after speaking a little bit about this. And these have to be shorter poems.
What can I say about going home? I think home, of course, there are many political poems about finding home, right? And of course, this comes from a place of displacement, perhaps by place of displacement or different types of atrocities that are experienced by people, right? When I write about finding home or going home, it comes from a place of misplacement, because I'm not displaced by necessity or circumstance. It was rather a choice. And this has left me in, of course, you've heard the diasporic people constantly talk about the in-between place. I've somehow stepped out of that conversation or discourse, and now for me, home is rather coming closer to myself. That every day I realize, the more I write especially, the more I discover myself, the more I come closer to myself. So that journey for me, when I say going home, is the act of writing, and it's a constant. It's going to be a constant sojourn. I think home will constantly keep, will be close, but also keep pace, right, as I move closer to it. Because in my conception of myself, my desire or my purpose is also somehow to just play in the endless somehow and keep going. So that's how I would, or that's what comes to my mind right now, thinking about home. But to read something short, maybe with the theme of home. Okay, I know that there is a huge tradition of women especially writing about the body as home. So here's one in English called Speak Revenge, which, yeah, you will, it will speak for itself, yeah. Were we the ones in dreamlands who shot the earth into a paradigm excuse of nations? No one is talking about the thirst in this existence, where outside tightly wound coils of breath is nothing. One goes in to search for a spring and there's a well, but the water can only be sucked out by a straw. Who amongst us has a really tall straw? A nemesis appears in the horizon with a rising sun, and through the day there's a mirage in all 8 directions, threatening. Don't you know, in some parts of the world, melancholy is not a treatable disorder. A priest blows out the candle in front of your face. The confessional is burnt to cinder. My aunt doesn't want to come out of her dead husband's room, and I wonder if she's talking to him day and night, if he's sitting in front of her still, if this is the secret she won't tell. Some people live to just make a point. I'm one of them. Without blowing a balloon of life in my womb and ejecting it out, how do I tell my purpose? The clock is not a monument, though it seems to me everyone carries the world on their wrists. My last date claimed everything at once, and there's only so much one can live in a 40 square meter apartment. I'm tired of not having rid myself of this fear. I cannot wait to go back to resembling my mother, pristine, piercing. It seems she aches to look into her own eyes, unwavering. It takes a lot of commitment to keep living. I will press my face out of my womb, bite a zip down to the perineum, salivate, lick the wound to seal, and when the mouth is out, suck on my horn of a clit, a straw that was once just one part of my finger, but now, after the fire, is two. Almost all of this world thinks we'll never learn to quench. People like us, we make our bodies bend. Wait till we speak revenge.
Yeah. So I don't think any artist, any writer is alive who has not explored the concept of home. So yeah, that's a binding and that's a universal feeling. So, well, I would like to go in and not speak much and go in three small directions. So one is home is where the love is. So this goes out to all the audience and my friends sitting in so much heat, and maybe to Anand as well. Listen to it and go. So this, I read it yesterday. Home is where love is. So there's what it goes. So எனக்கு எல்லா பாஷை தெரியாது ஆனா அன்பு புரியும் मुझे सारी भाषाएं तो नहीं आती पर प्यार समझ आता है আমি সব ভাষা বুঝি না কিন্তু ভালোবাসা বুঝি मला सगळ्या भाषा माहीत नाही आहे पण प्रेम माहीत आहे मला love and poetry. Let me do this again, somehow. Maybe Vivan, did you distract me somehow? Love and poetry can be found anywhere. It can be found... Okay, I'm going to read something else now. Okay. எனக்கு எல்லா பாஷை தெரியாது ஆனா அன்பு புரியும் मुझे सारी भाषाएं तो नहीं आती पर प्यार समझ आता है আমি সব ভাষা জানি না কিন্তু ভালোবাসা বুঝি Love and poetry can be found anywhere. It can be found in Kabir's dohas, Namdev and Tukaram's abhangs, Tiruvalluvar's Tirukurals, or the Baul Geet of Bengal, or in the Bhatiyali songs of Assam, or in the style of a Mohawk hairstyle, or in tick marks of WhatsApp. Love sticks out like the tongue of a Kali, suckles like a baby on its mother's breast, tickles like raindrops from tendrils, rolls down like beads of sweat while love-making, drives at 200 miles per hour without a seatbelt and faints at nothing. Love and poetry faint at nothing. Love and poetry are fearless. So, thank you. That was for my friends in the audience who made it today. And see, when we speak of home, it's also the ecosystem. And so let's say I experiment, as he was saying, a poem can also perform on a page. So this is a page where I took a page, and I'm inspired by a lot of Dada artists and artists like Robert Rauschenberg. And so I took a blank page. I wrote a poem. You can see this at leisure later. I took a page. I wrote with a pencil a poem. And then I carefully erased it to leave no trace of the poem. And then I submerged the poem in a bucket. And then I took a print of it and put it out on the book. And the poem is called Dibang Dam Project. The beautiful habitat of Dibang Valley, home to tigers, Mishmi Takins, leopards, bears, squirrels, musk deers, has been carefully erased and submerged like this poem. So a poem can perform on a page apart from the words either. So the last, very small, is home is where also your child is, your family is. And family can be as big as small, whatever. I think a friend is a family, and that too. So this poem, I leave this with this poem called Future. And because with the COVID, you know how the parenting things are getting. Every day the parenting is becoming a huge challenge. So it's called Future. This was written 3 years ago, so sorry, yeah. A boy is a year old now. Our boy is a year old now. He is yet to learn how to hi-fi, handshake, clap, wave goodbye, respond to strangers, or smile on video calls, unlike some babies his age. I don't want to rush him. He is baby, not instant coffee. Let them run wild in the labyrinth of childhood. No European articles on cognitive development for babies aspire me, nor do we follow 11 ways of making your baby smart and intelligent. My wife coerced me to join a gentle parenting group on Facebook, but I copped out when someone asked, what is the best position to hold your baby to sleep? Instincts are science. Be present. Hold on to the freedom of wild parenting. Play is the vital building block of bonobo relationships, and they continue to play as adults unlike us. There is more to learn from bonobo documentaries. The boy feels like an old soul. He comes to Bhimsen Joshi, Ustad Nusrat, and Bob Dylan. He floats like a leaf when Alamgir sings Polli Kobis. Amai bhashaili re, amai dubaili re. He's peaceful on long road trips or on the banks of the swollen Siang. I don't know the mix of flowers and thorns he may bring to bloom. I'm not much of a pruner, having come from perennial wild grass. All I know is after a long day of parental chores, I would like to sit with him and have a beer someday. The age ahead asks for physical distance, as if there is not enough separation between us now. Thank you.
Yeah. My dear friend, so shall we continue with home and hope or something else, you know? That's a tough choice, isn't it? I just flipped through several poems and I was thinking about what to do, more experimental, because I'm very whimsy. I mean, like, Josh also reminded me about a couple of things about me, that you are very whimsical, in the sense of not, having lunch or not lunch, but in terms of the poetry. And so let me share, without much, longest academic background to this poem, Homecoming. And this Homecoming is about Kashmir, I guess. When I first published it, times were difficult, so I even didn't give my name. And there are some poems 5 years back, Professor Slaughter in the office of professor was same, fate. No, my name was not there. But later on, the name, I developed enough courage and put the name, published, and now I'm still safe. Nothing about, coming home, and nothing about post-colonial theory. It's just the poem will speak to you. And it's about Kashmir. Homecoming. And then I will give you, this is a short poem, and then another short poem. Homecoming. Young boys and girls on the streets of my hometown sell empty bottles of vodka and smoke fake Havana cigars. Often they stroke their heads, kneel down in front of asphalt mosques of blood, bleat monotonous prayers for their safety from saffron missionaries. They ask me in Hebrew, often they ask me in Hebrew, if I have ever been to Arabia on a blind mule, or tried eating eucalyptus leaves in the solar express to the moon. In laser, they discuss our biological past. One-eyed monsters are now extinct. fashionable jaberas from Balangana have extinguished themselves. I should not complain about. I should not complain about while apples rotting in the Himalayan snow, or dark fossil histories of ageless army dictators. I'm traveling. Now I'm traveling in the bus with polar and aliens, and my son is taught Plato's Phaedrus by sea gods in the boarding school. Some things I don't understand. Some things I don't understand, like red capitalism or green socialism. Some things I don't understand, red capitalism or green socialism. Sometimes I wonder why South Americans love avocado, a live volcanic fruit. Why South Americans love avocado, a live volcanic fruit. I don't believe prisoners love Mexican food and blood diamonds. Next time when I travel, I will bring my camera, gas lighter, and Aladdin's lamp. It means nothing. It means nothing if photography is banned in the valley. You can still watch Einstein's brothers killing each other in the family dispute. These days, your real crime is not disobedience. These days, your real crime is not disobedience, but disappearance in the sunlight. Disappearance in the sunlight. After quarreling all day with curators of concealed truths, I am told, it is hard to translate in my native language. Exile is the only way of going home. Exile is the only way of going home. Thank you. And a short poem, and perhaps, this poem, Sinjini loves it, and generally I don't read this poem, but maybe today, let me read this poem. This is from my Tagore series, and temperamentally, I don't like this word francophone, anglophone, in the sense of, not raising a debate which the debate has been going on for a while. These are anthropologically suspect terms or sociologically dangerous. So I have done, I'm very rooted into my soil, very rooted. So I have done a Tagore series. And this poem is about Tagore. I'm sharing just one little bit, a small verse, which is maybe, I don't know what it is, but it is here. Title is Tagore, Driving Along the Highway. Tagore, driving along the highway. I am driving, she is sleeping. She is driving, I am sleeping. In between, we debate about Radio Mirchi. Driving is poetry, sleeping is prayer. Driving is poetry, sleeping is prayer, she says. In between, we converse about client meetings and business deals. You must write better. You are a minor poet, she says. Tagore is sleeping, she is driving. I am driving, Tagore is sleeping, she is driving. Thank you very much.